headphones on still. Hold on. Oh, wait, so I gotta pull this across as well, otherwise nobody can hear me. There we go. And pop out the chat and put it over here. There we go. Right. Now we're organized. How's everybody doing? How's your week been? Let's see. Male, females here. Thanks for joining. Haven't seen you before. I'll get to your question in a minute. Yolandi, Zanka, and Mimilek. Welcome. All right. Hold on. Let me just pull that down there. Oh, and Belem and Black Magic Society. Thanks for joining. Let me just sort myself out a bit better. There we go. All right. So let's get to male female's question. According to S. Conley's Goetia, when it says Buer teaches logic and helps transform the self through thought, does that mean he guides you to do it yourself, or does Buer change it for you? So, in my interpretation of that, he would guide you on how to do it. These spirits don't do these things for you, but they do guide you what to do. Buer might point you in particular directions to particular sources that might help you to transform yourself. Push you, guide you, move you along the path. So, yeah, no, that's my interpretation of it anyway. I'm sure Stephanie would agree, but obviously, if you really want to know what Stephanie really meant when she made the note, then best person to ask would be Stephanie. But that would be the logical explanation anyway. All right, let's see, Belem. After I've started to seriously reconnect with King Beleth, I have started to feel more drawn towards working with King and Maimon, mainly for consecrational workings. Now, Maimon would be connected more with the directions, more of the kind of the elemental kings themselves. Kind of makes sense. Black Magic Society. Hello, hello. Male, female. So Buer is an alchemy demon. Yeah, you could say that in that regard. For transformation of self. Yeah, you could definitely say that. It's an alchemical change within the self. Right. How's everybody's week been? I'm only going to do an hour and a half today because I've got the Obsidian Veil ritual at 9 p.m. my time. It's 7 p.m. GMT, so I need to get off here and then set up for that, and then do the ritual, live ritual, and yeah, so hour and a half today. So get all your questions in quickly, all the things you want to discuss. But then, do you have any videos about consecrational workings, as I want to get better at it? I don't think I've got anything on YouTube. I think it probably speak about it and demonstrate it within the Temple of the Horned Serpent stuff, because it's part of the work that you do over there. The consecration is really consecration is making something sacred, and you can do that in a multitude of ways. You can just simply announce that this thing is now sacred and will only be used for the purpose of X, Y, and Z. So it's not really a big thing, massive thing. Yolandi, I'm still low on energy, feeling meh. Maybe get to the doctor and have a checkup if you can, because I don't know if it's reached Cape Town yet, but there's been a lot of rubbish going around in Joburg. So maybe get a checkup, see if you caught anything. Astonic Traveller, Like to hear more about your female Lucifer and how you go about working with this figure. Also, what do you recommend if I can't vividly visualize? How can I astral travel places like you described? All right, I'll get to that question now. Let's just check. Richard, hello, Richard. Thanks for joining. All right, so the first part of that question is about Lucifer and being a female figure in my eyes. Lucifer was once upon a time a male figure in my practice. But the interaction I have with Lucifer is comes that Lucifer anyway. That I've worked with different Lucifers, and depending on context, Lucifer comes through as a different figure. There isn't one entity that is Lucifer. Let me just preface everything with that. There is no one entity whose name is Lucifer. Lucifer is a title, a job. It's the light bringer, and there are multitude of Lucifers. So bear that in mind going forward. But my Lucifer, my light bringer, the bringer of gnosis, of spiritual knowledge, the illuminator of my path, was originally or came from a traditional witchcraft background, because that's where I come from. And it was the masculine figure, the horn with the flame betwixt the horns. The horns, in some lore, is considered to be the two pillars, and the flame balances the two pillars. But it is the flame which illuminates the path. He's also sometimes represented as the hermits with the lantern, carrying the lantern. Um, and illuminating the path again. So you've got a lot of different representations, visages, images, and such things. At some point in my practice, that figure, although still horned with the flame betwixt the horn, became female, because Lucifer is considered to be a shapeshifter. And therefore, I mean, spirits aren't actually gender. We give them genders to begin with, so they're just balls of energy, really. They may have or feel like they have more of a masculine or feminine, or a non-binary, or an hermaphroditic, or a androgynous, whatever the spirit is. They may come through and give you sort of a feeling, and that's going to change for everybody. But yeah, so this figure just popped up one day as a female figure for me. Um, is it different? No, still the illuminator of my path, still the bringer of gnosis, still the light bringer. So it's the same figure. It's just, you know, appeared different, decided to appear differently. And that's fine. Um, but at the same time, I have mentioned this before as well. If when I worked with what's her name, Theodore Rose's book, Lucifer and the Hidden Demons, and that's kind of based more on Abramelin, the spirits from Abramelin itself, and Lucifer is kind of like the one you go to first, and then you kind of go through the line of spirits to get to the spirit you want to work with. And that Lucifer in there is masculine, is a very dark shaded figure, no horns. That's a very different entity from the one I personally work with. So, there are many, many different Lucifers, and you may find that you interact with many, many different Lucifers depending on the circumstance and the tradition and everything else. Um, how do I go about working with this figure? Lucifer is a guide. Um, it's just a guide in gnosis, in knowledge, and spiritual knowledge. Um, and yeah, really, I mean, it's not the kind of figure that I go to directly and say, hi, how are you, and have conversations with and everything else. Um, it's a guide. It's the figure that illuminates my path, literally. It's not, I mean, it's really as simple as that. Um, that's how I work with that figure. I can't really say much more, I don't think. Um, what do you recommend if you can't vividly visualize? How can I astral travel? Practice visualization unless you have aphantasia. If you do, just let me know so that I can, because that changes the answer completely. If you have aphantasia, that's a very different answer. If you do not have an aphantasia, you just need to exercise the muscles, the inner eye, the mind's eye type of thing, then it's just a practice or case of practicing, just practicing visualization techniques. And it strengthens the muscles, just like going to gym. And you can do that over a long period of time. Just keep practicing. And if you do, I mean, astral travel or astral projection compared to astral journeying, is a very different type of thing, in my understanding anyway. If you lie down and you have an out of body experience, that I would consider to be an astral travel or an astral projection. However, if you sit down and you go into a trance state through meditation and breath work and you take an astral journey, that's a different kind of thing. And yes, it starts off with visualization, but then the trance deepens. And once the trance deepens, you become immersed in the experience. And there is a bit of a difference there, actually. But visualization, obviously, is the bit that gets you into it and the bit that helps you get there. So you did say, I close my eyes and I just blackness, but I can dream and get deep in meditation and vividly think of something, but I see nothing. Might have aphantasia. It's possible. Just do a little exercise right now. Close your eyes and try to imagine an apple. As rudimentary as that might be, just try and imagine an apple. Do you see anything? Whether it's the outline, just a line drawing of an apple, whatever. Let me know if you see anything, because it might be that you do have an aphantasia. I'm going to go and continue with the other stuff, and then I'll come back to you then. Mimalek probably ought to pray to Erominus, and maybe Sia to help me with upcoming visit to the casino, and might I'm mighty stressed out with it. If you're stressed out, why are you going to the casino? Why are you going to the casino? It sounds like you shouldn't be going. But you might want to try Asmodeus as well. He's said to be what's it, uh, the game master of the casinos in hell or something like that. I can't remember. Something to do with that. But yeah, Asmodeus is associated with gambling as well and casinos. And yeah, very kind of powerful type of energy. Roop, hello Roop. Glad I happened to be in front of a computer to catch you live. I'm glad you're here as well. Thanks for joining. Masonic Traveller, like what deities inspired that perception? It interests me. Uh, well, the horn man, the horned one, that was well, I don't know if it's the inspiration, but that's what the horned man appears to be like. You know, that's what the flame betwixt the horns. That's just a traditional witchcraft kind of imagery. So I don't think I was inspired to see that entity that way. It's just, you know, it's kind of like my next door neighbor looks a certain way. That's the only way he looks. I'm not inspired to see him a certain way. So, you know. Oh, sorry. You also said Morrigan, Persephone, and Hecate. So Diana. Hecate has a Lightbringer aspect. Hecate Phosphorus, but Hecate is a multitude of epithets and spirits. Persephone, no, I wouldn't really say Persephone. Persephone is an underworld figure, and Morrigan is a war figure, so I wouldn't place them as light bringers. Diana, possibly. Diana's very connected with Lucifer from the Italian traditions. But then Lucifer is no, you see, Diana and Lucifer are two separate figures there. So Diana birthed Lucifer and became lover of Lucifer, and then they had Aradia in that particular mythology and context. So I wouldn't say Diana specifically. In some contexts, probably. There's some mythology out there that probably does make Diana a Lightbringer. Yolandi, do you have an easy warding technique for us to use? Yeah, call the watchtowers. The elemental kings, the archangels, whatever tradition you're following and you want to call them, they are the watchtowers. If it's a space, then just call the watchtowers, set them up, and don't take them down. Just saying, thank you for being here. You will guard my space. Or if it's your house spirit would be the best option there. Get to know your house spirit. Your house spirit will protect you. The space will protect your house, because it's their house as well. If it's warding on the move type of thing, then an amulet would be your best option there. Make an amulet so you can wear it, and wherever you go, you are warded and protected. Yeah, the easiest. Or shield, and you can just whoop, put up a shield, and you're all set to go. Yolandi, Richard, hi. When are you joining us for a Friday live? I'm sure Richard gets home on a Friday and drops dead. He's normally exhausted when he gets home from work. I know that much. Mm. Yeah, when work allows it again. There you go. All right, let's see. Listening out on my hamster on helium voice. Bhavin Mordka, hello. I bought Craig's book. I have mixed feelings. The elemental exercises, do you practice them? What practical benefit do you get from it? I haven't practiced his work in years, but it was my introduction, one of my introductions to ceremonial magic, which is why I recommend it as an introduction to ceremonial magic, because it was very useful for me and very useful for a lot of people I know. So I can't remember the exercises. That was 25, 30 years ago. Long time ago. But yeah, that's why I said for somebody who wants an introduction to ceremonial magic, this is a brilliant book. If you know what ceremonial magic is and you've been reading and practicing Thelema and Golden Dawn stuff, then it's probably not going to be a practical book. But he does extend outside those boundaries, so there's probably some use from from that perspective. But I don't remember the exercises myself. Richard at Yolandi seems I am missing out on a lot. Friday's kind of like a relaxed chat. Sonic. All right. So yeah, I don't see anything. I just think of it and can vividly describe it. I don't see a movie in my mind like most people. Okay. So the next step would be if you are reading a fiction book, how do you visualize what's happening? Oh, yeah, because remember when we say visualize, we're not talking about the eyes. We're not talking about, we use all this language, visualize, the mind's eye, all of this stuff. We're actually not talking about the visual aspect. Visualization and seeing is about all of the senses. So it's about taste and smell and touch and everything else. You said you don't. How do you experience the narrative in the book? There must be some kind of experience, whether that is through thought processes. You're not going to see it, that's fine, but there's some way you experience it. I can't really say what that is because I don't, I'm not in your head. But that's what I think you might understand what I'm trying to get to in that regard. Bobby Mordka said Hecate, Persephone. And what about Kirky? I'm not really sure about Kirky. Circe. as some people say. I don't really know. I don't really know. Never really connected with that figure. Not sure. Um, Masonic. What got you into demonology? All right. Sorry. Let me just. I'll come back to that one. You said I just read it and think about it. So when you think about it, you experience the narrative somehow. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about when I say visualize. So what you're going to do is you're gonna sit, you're going to get into a meditative state, you're going to do breath work, you're going to bring yourself into a trance state, just quiet the mind, bring yourself further inward type of thing, and then you are going to um, actually, probably one of the best ways would be to create a narrative that you can listen to. So get like a storyline, um, and then actually record that, and then press play and allow that to actually create the narrative. So you are standing in a meadow, you're walking along the path, you come to a forest, blah blah blah, etc., 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 until you get to a point where you can then just kind of leap off from that point, because that's going to bring you deeper into a deeper trance state, and the narrative will help you to go through the thought processes of what's happening. And not sure, you're not going to see what's going on. You might find that you start to feel. You might include things like um, you can feel the heat of the sun or the wind blowing through the trees. You can hear the birds in the background, tweeting away in the forest. Add those kind of things which are about hearing, touch, because those are very defined senses as well. And see if you can actually start feeling stuff, and you might find that you get a taste in your mouth, which creates a memory again. Um, so hearing and touching things, smelling things, smell, ooh, scent, one of the best visualization apparatus we have. Especially when it comes to memory. You smell something and all of a sudden you just remember something. But then you get to a point where you kind of like continue on in the journey because now you're in trance state, just continue it without the narrative being read to you and see what happens. And see if you actually, because you say you dream. And that's kind of like what you're trying to get to in this experience is immerse yourself in a trance state, which immerses yourself in the actual environment that you're actually experiencing. So give that a try, see if it works. I've got the guided meditations. I do one a week on Patreon, but I kind of release one once a month on YouTube. I just pick one randomly from the previous month. But maybe try one of those and see what happens with the narrative. Hearing somebody actually talk you through it and going through the narrative, see what happens. Maybe you start picking up sense and touch, and you start hearing things and everything else rather than seeing things. But yeah, just give it a try, see what happens. All right, so let me get back to what got you into demonology. Um, I actually, years back, I used to try and find ways to interact with the spirits of the grimoires without um, taking on the same approach as is in the grimoires. So I didn't like the Solomonic approach. I tried it, I didn't like it. I felt like it was very disrespectful, and so I was trying to find ways, and I came across like Rufus Opus, Aaron Leach, all of these people who spoke about things like spirit boxes and all this stuff. So I kind of like started putting things into place, and I was doing, demonology, left hand path, all that stuff has definitely not been the predominant path that I've followed over the years. Um, and then I did the Albemelin, and then I had to take a very long break because I went through a dark night of the soul, and I had no community to kind of bounce anything off and understand what was going on. So for several years, I rejected magic completely and utterly. Everything to do with the path, all of the people, all the communities, I just pushed it all away and rejected it, and I just because I needed to, I couldn't handle what was going on in my head. Um, and I was doubting everything, a typical dark night of the soul type thing. And then when I was coming back into trying to get back into magic and trying to find out where my path would go, because I didn't want to really pick up where I left off because it was very confusing. I was trying to incorporate too many things, different traditions and elements and aspects all at the same time. It was just so confusing, and that's part of what actually caused this dark night of the soul. So I was trying to figure out where to start and where to come back, and I got into Satanism. I got into uh, some really, really foolish decisions like the website Joy of Satan, which is I found out much later is very nutsy. Didn't realize it at the time, but there were some interesting meditations there. And Diane Vera was a big influence at that time when I was coming back. But I kind of like had hits and misses, and then I tried a shamanic route, and then I tried this route, and I tried that route, and kind of like started and stopped and started and stopped. And I kept going through all these different phases. And then I came across, I mean, this is probably several years after Connolly started writing, but came across Connolly, and all of a sudden we've got this word called demonolatry, and we're doing these respectful rituals with the demons and everything else, and they're just the term, the word, what was being done, it all kind of clicked into place, and I thought this is what I was looking for years back before Connolly came on the scene. It's like, why didn't you start writing then? It would have saved me a lot of time, but yeah. So that's how I got specifically into Connolly's modern demonolatry, and then adjusted and adapted from there. All right, there we go. Long story. All right, carrying on. Yolandi, I'm busy setting up an ancestral altar in my lounge. Can't wait to get it together. Nice, good stuff. Yeah, gonna have to make it high so the cats don't get it. But good stuff. All right. Oh, he said, for example, I see and feel the story. That is why I hate it when they make a movie from a book I've read. What I see differs from what the directors see. Yeah, that happens. Sometimes they kind of get it right, and other times it's a very, very different visualization. Um, Sonic, I like how you talk about how the experience itself is real enough. So when we talk about meditation, you mean eyes closed, right? I do it with eyes open. No, close your eyes rather, because you want to kind of limit the distractions as much as possible. If you can actually cut out sound with what are they called? Well, if you've got noise cancelling headphones, that's perfect. But earbuds or something like that, um, then that would also help. If I find they make me feel very uncomfortable, so I don't use them. What I sometimes do quite often now is actually you can use music. If you have particular music which gets you into a very kind of trance state, then use the music. I've created on through Audacity. I've created a pure tone binaural beat that I like to actually put headphones on and use that because it takes me into a trance state. And it shuts out all of the other noise because I live in an apartment block. So I've got people around me all the time. There's people on either side of me, and there's people below me. Um, just somebody just started a car outside, so can't get away from the noise. So I put headphones on and listen to something. But yeah, close your eyes so you cut out any kind of distractions which might be outside. Um, And well, I mean, I say close your eyes, try it. If it doesn't work, then open your eyes. If you find that keeping your eyes open actually helps you, then open your eyes. But I think for this type of thing, it would probably be better if your eyes are closed, because you're going to go into a trance state where you're going to slip out of this world and go into the other world. So you don't want that kind of visual reminder, with your eyes open, seeing the physical world in front of you. So I would say close your eyes. It's probably going to work better. And then, yeah, but it is about real, it's about a real experience. I mean, as I said, you kind of start off with visualization, but as you go into a trance state, you get immersed in the world itself, and it becomes a real experience. It's not imagination, which could be assigned to the visualization part. So yeah, but you've got to the thing to do is experiment, record it in a journal, see what happens. If you find that you find a method which kind of works, it kind of pushed you a little bit further along the path, then note that method down and maybe try other methods, but you've noted it down, you can come back to it later, and then you can build on it. But you've got to just keep trying different things and seeing what works and what doesn't work, because everybody's different. So gotta do that. G-Labs, hello. Did you do the Abramelin proper for 18 months? I actually did it for the 6 months because the 18 months version wasn't available when I did it. It was too long back. Um, I think I can't. Well, wasn't Peterson that discovered the original French manuscript? I can't remember if it was Peterson or somebody else. But yeah, the thing that was only available then was the Mathers 6 month version, so I did that. It worked for me. Hmm. I actually did it twice, because the first time I tried to reinterpret the whole thing in a pagan context, and it didn't work. And then years later, I got into Kabbalah. I met Eucurus, and I had a very different understanding of what God, Adonai, and etc., 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 actually were from that context. So that helped me a lot. And then I did it from that perspective. I still, even when I got to the end and I got to the binding of the demons, I did it, but I kind of apologized to them at the same time because I just felt a bit weird doing it. But they kind of stood there and went, it's okay, don't worry, we understand. We've been through this several times. So, don't worry, just do it, carry on, get it over with, and we'll talk after that. So, hmm, drinking my water. I've still got bloody hot chocolate. Not drink my hot chocolate. All right. Sonic, I tried the 666 crown meditation. It gave me a migraine. Where was that from? That sounds like something from Joy of Satan. Probably, yeah. Andrea, hello, Andrea. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Astra's in a one's just me. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Sonic, is this what Alistair Crowley was referring to about visiting real places in the world with astral travel in Liber O? Just trying to refresh my memory of Liber O, but um, yes and no. Um, there is a way of, you don't need to sit in order to actually visit places here in the physical world. Um, if you say real places in the world, I'm assuming you're talking about physical places like, going to the mall, for instance, or um, actually moving around your own home, your house. Um, moving through the rooms and things like that, or going to the park, or going out into your garden, or things, something like that. You don't necessarily have to have an out-of-body experience. You can, again, sit down in meditation, go into trance, and start with a visualization where you're going to the place you want to go to, and then you find yourself there. And this is a form of astral travel. It's just that you haven't, you're not lying down, and you're not trying to get into that typical kind of out-of-body experience. In this sense, there's no real difference between the out-of-body experience and doing a journey work, actually. It's just that you are, the way you get there is different. You're still experiencing it as it is. Um, but yeah, probably. I can't remember Lever O at this point. I thought that was about. Wasn't Lever O? No, couldn't have been Lever O. I thought it was more about Bhakti yoga, but that was probably something else. But yeah, you can do that. So, and again, what you might want to do is keep experimenting and going to different places and places you haven't been to for a while. Is often a very good idea because what you can do then is, sometimes things change, like a childhood friend you haven't seen in years, go and visit their house, and they've probably painted the front wall or something like that. And you go there and you remembered it being purple. Now all of a sudden it's green, and if you're still in touch with with your childhood friend, you can phone them up and say, "Did you guys paint the wall? And is it green?" And so you can get confirmations like that. Or if you've got somebody you can practice with, then do little experiments like the typical kind of out of body experiences or experience out of body experience exercises that people typically, bloody hell, typically talk about in the books, such as you get your friend to write a number on a piece of paper, big number, and then put it on top of the cupboard in their house, and then you journey to their house and you try and see, you go fly up onto the cupboard and you try and see what the number was, because then you can report back to them. They can say if you're right or wrong. So all those, you can do all those little experiments, which are quite fun and cool. Um, yeah, as I said, it's about experimenting. Keep trying, keep doing it. G-Labs, did you try Crowley Thelema method of contacting HGA as well? No, I didn't. Which is more effective, Thelema versus Abramelin? I didn't. Again, I was really only exposed at the time. I was really only exposed to Mather's Abramelin. I probably came across Liber Samek years later. I probably knew about it, but I didn't kind of connect the dots and didn't know Liber Samek was another version of Abramelin. So it would have been better. But I did have a room that I could set up to actually do this at the time, so it made things a lot easier as well. But if you don't have the space, if you don't have a temple room, then Liber Samek's probably the best option if you want to go that route. Because it's more of an astral working than an actual physical working. But at the same time, you can just call out to your holy guardian angel each day. Just pray to your holy guardian angel. Inflame yourself with prayer, specifically to that entity, and eventually you'll get contact. So it's about knowledge, having knowledge of your holy guardian angel, and then having conversation with your holy guardian angel, and then the work starts. That's just the introduction. That's just the hi, how are you? Now I know who you are. Let's get married within the sacred marriage, and now we can start the rest of our life. And that's the beginning of the whole thing. So there's a lot of people think that doing like Abramelin or Liber Samek or whatever is kind of like the work. No, that's just the beginning. You've got the rest of your life to actually do what you need to do. Bobby Morka, Breaking the Spell of Colonial Christianity. Oh, goodness. Featuring, I'm not going to try and say that. Africa Speaks on YouTube. Interesting. It's also witchcraft or wisdom saving Africa's sacred knowledge. That sounds interesting. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, no, let me go to YouTube. Come on. Masonic, how do you test if the angel is real or an astral parasite? Angels are a bit more difficult. I actually wouldn't even bother working with angels myself. But because when you're testing a spirit, you kind of usually ask the questions such as, please tell me your name, your lineage, all of that type of stuff. So testing an angel can be a bit difficult actually. Hang on, I just found it. Let me put it in my watch later. Save to watch later. There we go. Oh, as in the Holy Guardian Angel. Now, the Holy Guardian, well, this is gonna, people are gonna have different opinions on this, because nobody can agree what the Holy Guardian Angel actually is. Totally understandable. So you're gonna get my interpretation of this. The Holy Guardian Angel is not an angel in the strictest sense of what we consider to be angels or archangels or whatever. They are not seraphim, they are not the Aishim, they are not any of these angelic. Is part of your soul. It's you. Now, is it separate from you or is it part of you? Yes and no. Or yes to both, really. Um, what I consider this holy guardian angel to be, or what I prefer to call the personal daimon, is an entity which is part of your soul, but is beyond you and it connects you to divinity. So it's kind of like it's the gatekeeper. If you go into like the Grimorium Verum, you've got Skirlin, who is the gatekeeper. You call Skirlin before you do anything, any other work. You open the gate, right? The Holy Guardian Angel is kind of like the gatekeeper. It is the gatekeeper, opens the gate to divinity. But it's also it's part of you. It's part of your fragmented soul. And I personally think there are many different parts of your soul. So you've got your lower self. I think I keep forgetting to check this because it keeps coming up, and I keep forgetting what the term is. In Abramelin, it speaks of something akin to your lower demon. Can't remember the term exactly. And you actually get in contact with that. And this also gets mentioned in the PGM, the Greek Magical Papyri, that you get in contact with this lower demon. It's a lower entity, so I just want to check that I'm still streaming okay. It looks like it. Just let me know if there's any problems. So you actually get in touch with this lower demon first, and then you do the work to inflame yourself with prayer, you elevate your vibrational state, and you come into contact with your holy guardian angel. You then bring all of this into union and you go through a sacred marriage. The sacred marriage is union. It's about joining all of these parts of the soul. And I think there's more parts as well. I don't think it's just the two parts. I think we've got many different fragmented parts that we all bring together. And part of this becomes part of shadow work, of understanding the different aspects of ourselves that we want to hide from ourselves and other people, is to accept those things. Those are part of us as well. Might not necessarily technically be part of our soul, but they are part of who we are, they're part of our nature. So, we kind of bring those in as well and we integrate them into our entirety. And this is what the Holy Guardian Angel is. It's just a part of us that is gatekeeper to divinity and is the driving force behind our true will, as Crowley would say. And but it's not a separate entity like a demon or an angel or a god or a goddess or a fae or a jinn or etc etc etc. It's not a separate entity. It is part of who we are, of us, our own soul. So yeah. You think it's the Buddha nature? Could be, could be. I'm not really too familiar with the context of the Buddha nature, but yes, it could absolutely be. From the little I know of that. Lowton, hello, hello. Funny enough, I've been told by a lot of mediums that angels are invested in me. See them around me a lot, apparently, which is odd considering how, as you say, they're usually a bit standoffish. This is where different interpretations come in, and a lot of people have this idea that angels are white light beings with wings and things like that. The same type of thing as a lot of people believing that fairies are these tiny little cute little things with wings and they're going to flutter around you, instead of the ones that will literally stomp on your head. They're that big, you know? So it's going to be about worldview and personal interpretation. My understanding of angels is definitely not these entities which are standing guard and with you and things like that. That's more of a, what's her name? What was her name? Diane, the angel card woman who made millions and millions and millions. That is definitely not my interpretation of angels. But at the same time, these entities could be around you, and the person who is seeing them is interpreting them as being angels because that's their experience. They might not be angels. There's argument that the Enochian angels that Dee and Kelly actually work with were not angels at all, but demons. They only called them angels because if they called them demons, they would have been persecuted and executed immediately. So they called them angels because that's the only way they could actually hide it and stay alive at the time. So there is speculation and argument that the Enochian angels are not angels at all. So this is, somebody might be seeing an entity around you and they are interpreting it as an angel because that's their own worldview. And it might not be an angel, it's just what they've called it because it's the only word they can actually give it. So, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that their own personal worldview is different to yours. So, do some testing, find out, speak to them. If there's something there, start talking to it and finding out what it is and who it is in your own worldview, which then becomes very different. So, it's different. This is why, we've got to try and understand when people talk about things, we've got to try and understand what they're actually meaning most of the time because just one singular word or term can mean 100 different things for 50 different people, you know. Andrea, our higher self, perhaps. Some people call it the higher self. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's inherently correct. Again, interpretation, personal interpretation makes a big difference here. But yeah, it could be considered the higher self. It can be considered the neshima, the higher soul, all of these different things. Referring to the holy guardian angel. Yeah. Sonic, what do you think is meant by the adept holds the keys to heaven and hell? How Crowley said his adepts' heads are in the heavens and their feet in the roots of hell. It's just above and below interpretation. I don't like using the word hell myself because it's an invention of Christian faith. And I don't believe their hell exists, but it's the what is it? The Heathen and the Hull, which was the Old English, I think. Double check that. Old English, Heaven and Hull. Fucking AI mode, go away. Because yeah, in a lot of Old English interpretations, the Anglo-Saxons and stuff, it was about what's above and what's below. Um, and obviously hell became, or hell was, Helheim, where hell lived, the halls of hell. So it became a very different thing. Thought I'd find it. Mm, no, can't find it. There was a certain term, Old English term that was used for that. Can't find it now. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, in terms of what Crowley was probably talking about was just above and below, you know. So you're not just fixated on celestial or chthonic. You are balancing everything out, which is what you should be doing. Um, and that's a lot of people argue that Crowley was didn't really know what he was doing. Sure, he was a bit of a pompous, arrogant arsehole, but he kind of took the Golden Dawn stuff, which is very celestial, and kind of brought it down to earth and started bringing in the balance. He brought in a lot more paganism than the Golden Dawn people, Mathers and all of those cronies. Um, so yeah, I think he did have that above and below aspects, balancing of them. Lotion, there was a hiccup, but the stream is still going. Okay, right. Yeah, as long as it's still going, it just keeps showing me this bloody error thing on here. You can't trust YouTube at all. Andrew, no problems with Sonic. Would you say this HGA is always there? We just need to learn to communicate. Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's like, saying my right arm's always here. Sorry if anybody's amputated arm. That's a bit rude. But it's that kind of thing, really. It's always there. It's part of you. It's your soul. So yes, it's always there. It's just that we have to find it. You know, re knowledge. This is why the term knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel works so well, because you have to gain knowledge of your Holy Guardian Angel through work, through doing the work, the great work and everything else. Yeah, it's just about learning that it is there, what it is, and then communicating with it. Obi Morka, Andrea Malone self-discovered yesterday that I have ADHD. I'm torn. I don't know if I should practice magic with this trait and what especially. Um, I know you just asked Andrea, but if you want my opinion, just get it sorted out. Go to therapist, get medication if you need it, so that you don't have to worry about it, and then you're cool. It might actually help a lot as well. You probably might find that it'll help with your magical practice once you've got it all sorted out under control. Definitely go to a therapist. Um, Andrea, re-em. What's re-em? The oversoul. Yeah, could be considered the oversoul. There's lots and lots of different terms that have been used for it. Yeah. Loitem, personally, when I think of angels, I usually think of the more multidimensional beings that do not look human at all. Well, we give them all the entities, all the spirits, we give them the human form, so they're not really human to begin with anyway. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, it's a bit difficult. Masonic, the unfortune. Um, um, are you asking about the unfortune? You're making the statement. Just let me know. I'm not sure why you just said the unfortune. Lowton, interestingly, my mind associates angels with eyes more often than wings. That's only one class of angel. the wheels with the multiple eyes, but you've also got I forget the names of them. I'm going to refer you again, all of you, back to Dr. Justin Sledge, the Esoterica channel. He's doing that Merkava Mysticism lecture at the moment, series. And watch the first one because it discusses a lot of this actually. The different classes of angels. Um, and it's actually the ones with the wings, with the four wings or the six wings or something, are actually the ones that stand at the four corners of the world. They are often considered to be the watchtowers, the four kings. The Aishin? No, they're the seraphim. So then the ones with the no, but there's the ones with the eyes and the wheels of the seraphim. I don't know. I don't know. I don't follow that stuff. But there are all different classes of angels, all different groups of these particular forces. Right, Babi Morka. Diane Fortune, wasn't she the one who was Jesus centric? Yeah, it probably was. She was part. She started with Theosophy. She got into Golden Dawn. She then started her own. What was it called? Something Inner Light. She was in. She wrote some really, really good, interesting books. Um, but again, you've got to check the information. She did write a really good book, Psychic Self-Defense, which a lot of people recommend. But as far as her books on Kabbalah go, kind of everybody over the years has been recommending go read The Mystical Kabbalah by Dion Fortune. It's one of the best books, but it actually isn't. And coming back to Dr. Justin Sledge again, he's one of the people who said that Dion Fortune's Mystical Kabbalah is not one of the books you actually want to read to learn more about Kabbalah. Um, you know, she was influenced very much by Hermetic Kabbalah, which was came out of Christian Kabbalah. So it had a particular influence which took away from Jewish Kabbalah. So it's not really the best source unless it's Semitic Kabbalah you're working with, you're trying to learn about. So I was going to find out what that. Oh, that was it. The Fraternity of the Inner Light. There you go. She co-founded that, and that was her big thing. But she just carried on with the theosophical and Golden Dawn stuff. And it was, yeah, I mean, they're all very Jesus centric back then. Yeah, couldn't get away. It's not just yet Yod He Vav He, that it's or um, Jehovah. It's Yeshua with the it's Yod He Shin Vav He, because they decided to put the Shin, which is the letter of fire, in the middle of the word in order to make it Christ. That's Hermetic Kabbalah. If you're going to go Hermetic Kabbalah route, you're going to go Jesus centric. No getting away from it. So, yeah. Ultimately, there's very little difference between angels and demons, in my opinion. No, I would definitely disagree with that. Angels are huge big forces. Demons are individual entities which are more chthonic. I would definitely say they are very different. But personally, I'm not saying you're wrong, just saying my opinion. Demons are closer to humans. That's what I would say myself. Masonic, I see angels as indifferent beings, like advanced life forms who care rather we exist or not. Yeah, well, I'm assuming you mean don't care. Basically, yes. Um, Lotan, there's a quote from Warhammer that I like, something to the effect of the difference between gods and demons depends largely on where one is standing at the time. Yeah, I suppose so. But that's gods, that's not angels. Again, they're all different entities. Yolandi, I think Hollywood influenced a lot of people, a lot of what people see. It definitely does. And not just Hollywood, just people like that Diane, I forget her name, hold on, let's have a look. Diane, Angel Cards, because she was the biggest proponent of this. Diana Cooper, there we go. She was the biggest proponent of this, angels look, have these wings and they're all friendly and everything else. Um, yeah. But anyway, Kerry, hello, Kerry, thanks for joining. Sonic, my experience working with demons hasn't been that bad. Seems pretty balanced. It's good. Oops, hang on, skipped. Lowton, interestingly, I used to sit in on a meditation circle and saw a lot of. What was that? I saw a lot of what would be considered angelic images, but again, not the pretty people with wings kind. Yeah, again, I mean, you see something and your previous understanding of how you've been trained, and what you've read, you know, how you have come to interpret particular things, will interpret that thing in that way. Um, so, for instance, somebody might consider it to be demonic, whereas you consider it to be angelic. Um, so, it really does boil down to personal interpretation, which is based on um, past experience and past learning and teaching and everything else, and also culture and tradition, and that's also going to make things very, very different for different people. Um, you know, one culture is going to see a particular thing one way, and another culture is going to see it a completely different way. Tradition is going to change the imagery or the interpretation of the imagery. So, understanding what people are actually referring to goes a long way. If somebody says it's an angel, find out what they mean when they say that. Why they are considering it to be an angel, and you may consider it to be a god or a demon or whatever it is. So, yeah, personal stuff. Lawson, holding the keys to heaven and hell could also just refer to the ability to granted choose granted by knowledge. Negative versus positive results of our actions. It could. But I think earlier on with that question, there was also the inclusion of how Crowley would have meant it, um, when he said his adepts' heads are in the heavens and their feet in the roots of hell. So that really doesn't speak to me about a negative and a positive aspect. That's more kind of like their thought processes in the celestial, whereas they're rooted in the earth, in the pagan, in the chthonic stuff. But again, personal interpretations. This is why we have these chats and discussions. Sorry, Rem was a typo. Okay. Could have been a magical word. I don't know. Lodged there's the flying snakes, the seraphs, and the cherubs. Cherubs, that was it. Cherubs are the winged ones. The cherubim, who, contrary to popular belief, are not little babies, but rather giant four-headed warriors. There you go. Yeah, it's the it's sometimes seen as the four-headed warriors. It's sometimes seen as the four winged beings, which are let me get it right. There's a human, there's a bull, there's an eagle. What's the fourth one? The human is earth, the eagle is air, the bull. Oh, I don't bloody remember. So long since I did ceremonial stuff. But yeah, there's the four heads. But yeah, the cherubim. There you go. Thank you. Seraphim are the ones with six wings. Oh, okay. I thought the seraphim were the ones with the wheels with the eyes and things like that. I don't know. I don't know. As I said, not something I follow myself anymore. There are a lot of types. A lot, yes, there are a lot of different ones. Where can I buy Johannes's books? Um, you can, if you really want them, they are quite expensive because they're big. And he sells them on Lulu for $48 because they are big. They're like 600 pages. They're not kind of your small tomes. They're your big tomes. And but you can get them on Lulu, but in South Africa that's a bit of a problem. So if you do want them, let me know. I'll contact Jacobus. I assume you're meaning Jacobus, not Johannes. I know because you get the name mixed up. Um, but I'll contact Jacobus and see if he can send you one. He's got stock. He has stock of his books. Sonic DL Fortune's emanations of the tree are pretty weird. I'm actually not entirely sure I studied her mystical Kabbalah, to be honest. I don't remember. I know I read her other books. I read some of her fiction books, which were really good, and I do remember reading Psychic Self-Defense, but I'm actually not entirely sure I read the mystical Kabbalah. Probably went in a different direction at the time. Can't remember, but yeah, maybe I should give it a read at some stage when I've got nothing else to read. Not that that will ever happen. Um, Lawson, I can see what you mean. I suppose I should specify in their relation to humanity rather than in their specific qualities. Yeah, kind of. Um, if I'm understanding what you are referring to there. Masonic, do you believe that demons of the Goetia are based off the pagan gods? Same with Arbidel. Oh, the Orbital. This is a tricky one. I know a lot of people do consider the 72 spirits to be like um Baal is Baal and Astaroth is Astarte. Um I I guess I kind of take a bit of a different approach. I take the approach that they are Jinn, that they are Jinn spirits. And the way I kind of see that is very similar to how I would see the human race, really, in terms of the Jinn have communities, they have children, they live and they die, they have religion. It's I can't say very different to the gods because the gods are the same. They also have their wars and their battles and their personalities, and they live and they die, and they have children and they everything else. So it's very similar. But I, at one stage I got the impression that the spirits of the Goetia are Jinn, and they were named after particular deities that were about centuries and millennia ago. They were not specifically the deities themselves, but they were named after these deities, and which also means that the names may have changed or adjusted or adapted slightly, just like humans get named after gods, you know, or figures from the Bible, figures from history, the same type of thing. And that's kind of what stuck with me is that they are Jinn. and they are named after the gods in certain circumstances, not in all circumstances. In other circumstances, they just have their own name. Like I'm Lee. I don't know of any gods or goddesses named Lee, um, but that's the name I was given by my parents. So yeah. But anyway, that's kind of what stuck with me. Leighton said some of the Goetia are definitely adaptations of pre-Christian gods. Ashtaroth is one of the most blatant examples. See, I mean that again. That's a particular interpretation. But when I contacted Astarte and asked her specifically about Astaroth, the one thing she did say is that she is not Astaroth, but that is a mask of her, which can be interpreted in a similar way of saying that Astaroth from the Goetia is an egregore. And this is also another interpretation which I kind of throw around, is that these spirits that we work with now from the grimoires are egregores, and they've just adjusted and adapted over periods of time, and what we interact with now are egregores. They're not the original spirits. Is that a bad thing? No, not at all. We work with egregores all the time. In fact, we're probably more accustomed to working with egregores than any other spirit at all, because that's what is normal in our lives. But yeah, I mean, again, interpretations, and we need to come up with our own at the end of the day. Babi Mordka, so we have three Kabbalahs: classical, Hermetic, and Christian. Yes, basically. There's also some people will add Greek into that as well. That there was a Greek Kabbalah. I'm not really sure about that. Kabbalah is a Jewish word, and therefore it originated with the Jews. It means a particular thing, and therefore you can apply it in other circumstances, but then it's not really Kabbalah, it's whatever that thing is. The message, or I can't remember the bloody words now. Anyway, yeah, but that's basically it. So it started with Jewish Kabbalah, which came out of something else. It's not like it popped out of thin air, overnight or anything like that. It did develop from other systems, obviously. But there's Jewish Kabbalah, and then Christians came along and thought this was a really good way of explaining the cosmos, and they had adapted it and adjusted it to include Christ. So you've got the Christian Kabbalists, but that was more uh, um, words fail me again. I keep wanting to say heady. It was I can't remember the words. Not practical. It was about it's on the tip of my tongue. All of these words are on the tip of my tongue and they won't come out. Anyway, I think you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, you know what I'm talking about. And then somebody came along and said, "Well, we need to make this a bit more practical, so let's make it Hermetic Kabbalah," which came out of Christian Kabbalah. So yeah. The unfortunate is between Hermetic and Christian. You'll probably find there isn't actually much of a difference between Christian and Hermetic Kabbalah. It's just one is and the other is practical. More of a practical application to it, with the rituals and the way of the great work and the way you actually work through the system itself. Whereas, what the fuck is the word? Um, oh god, don't know. I'm just gonna give up on that one. It's Sunday evening. It's 8:15. You'll have to forgive me. All right. So, Lowton said I missed the Crowley part. Oh, okay. All right. Lion. There you go. My mind blanked out on that for a moment as well. There you go, Lion. I always forget what the fourth one is, and I'll probably next time we talk about this, I'll give them in a different order, and I'll just forget the last one. Always happens. Mm. Sonic. I've forgotten so much stuff I read in occult books, but I guess if I can make the magic work, That's all that matters. It is that the results are what matters. And it is like exercising muscles. I mean, yeah, I did all my went through this period where I was interested in ceremonial magic and Golden Dawn and Crowley and Thelema and all of that stuff. Went through this long period, but now it's not part of what I do. So it's still there in the background and it's an interest and everything else. But you know, you don't exercise the muscle, things you start forgetting the details. So yeah, but it's what the results are what matters. Both in the four heads are also the four fixed signs in the zodiac: Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Libra. Yeah, yeah. Um, oops, hang on, my chat skipped again. Both in ophonym are ophonym are the wheels. Okay, that word doesn't sound familiar to me. I'm sure I probably know it as something different, but anyway, yeah, that one. Um, Roop, how of much of magic is ever anything objective as there is such emphasis on personal interpretation? Is there such thing as objectivity at all to magic? Are some interpretations better than others? It's a difficult one. There are certain things that I mean, don't ask me to think of anything offhand specific to explain this. But there are things which are just outright lies. It's the only way I can put it really. Um, and I say that because a lot of the things that actually comes through in magic starts with unverified personal gnosis. It's a UPG. But what happens is you then get a variety of different people who go through the same experience the same thing, and therefore it becomes a group verified or group UPG. Group. It becomes unverified group gnosis kind of thing. And then, but at some point, it gets to the point where it becomes verified. So a large enough group have done the thing and have experienced it, and they can all verify the results, right? Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only one. There's no one truth. There's no absolute truth. Um, that's just one avenue. That's just one current of energy that one particular group of people went down. So then you get the same thing happen again with one person has a UPG, he gets other people, they get other people to put it to the test, and it becomes a group personal gnosis, and then it becomes verified, etc., etc., etc. If enough people actually work with it. Um, but I think it almost becomes a skill, and there's part of discernment of actually seeing when somebody's rattling on about something. And yes, you know it's UPG, and that's fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with UPG. I think it's a very necessary thing, and more people need to start discussing or presenting their UPG because I think it becomes very important. It helps with development of magical path. But you get some people that just come up with this whole load of bullshit and names that just pop up out of thin air, and it really, I think it becomes a skill of just discerning that, this person really is just gone off the deep end. Um, and I'm finding this a lot within the left hand path and within the whole thing. It's just people are just coming up with all this rubbish and just inventing and creating because it looks cool and it looks edgy. It sounds really cool. Let's like throw it out there. Then everybody's like, "Oh, this is really cool." You know, I'm gonna become an edge lord, and it's just based on a load of bullshit. It really is, and it's difficult to say where that is and where it isn't until it's been verified. I don't know. Even then, I mean, so many people go through the same thing and they kind of verify it, but it really is still a load of bullshit because they're all tapped into this illusion and they can't break out of it. You know, the whole thing of going crossing the abyss. Most of the people who are experiencing that, and I'm going to say specifically in the clip off, they're not crossing the abyss. They are sinking into the abyss, which is why it then becomes the tunnels of Set and all this stuff, and they just travel through this maze. And this is what Crowley called the Black Brothers. The Black Brothers were the people who tried to get across the abyss and never made it. They never got out of it. And Kenneth Grant was a perfect example of that, to tell you the truth. Um, and therefore, then it just becomes complete illusion because the clip off are the shells, the husks. It is the skin. We want to get to the inside. We don't want to stay on the skin. The skin is the illusion, the Maya. It's we don't want that. We need to break through. So, but everybody, they all seem to be sticking to the husks and the shells. This is clip off. That's clip off. It's a shell. It's the skin. It's the thing that is preventing you from getting inside. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm going on a rant about this now. I haven't got time. I've got 10 minutes left and then I've got to go and set up for the Obsidian Veil ritual. So let me get through the chat quickly, as quickly as I can. Yolanda Jacobus. Okay, all right, yeah. Yeah, I thought you meant Jacobus. Masonic. What books do you recommend to learn about these folklore creatures and beings? Will you be doing a series on these? Which folklore creatures and beings are you talking about specifically? You're talking about Fae, the actual. I think if I mean even if we're talking about Jinn, they're so similar. I mean, it's different traditions, but I think they are kind of the same type of entity. It's just that Fae are European, Jinn are more Arabic. So they do have a different nature, and they do have different communities and stuff, but they're very, very similar. So you can get an idea of what the Jinn are like by learning about what the Fae are like. And the stories and the tales and the mythologies and the legends and stuff about or between the two are so similar. You know, like popping in and out of between the dimensions, popping into the world and popping out of our reality, of picking humans up and dropping them in blackthorn bushes and you know all of this stuff. Married, the Fae get married to humans and have children. The Jinn get married to humans and have children. So the stories are very, very similar. So you can learn a lot from about the Fae, and I would definitely go down the route of Morgan Daimler. She is probably the best authority on Fae folklore. She's written hundreds and hundreds of books. So that's Morgan Daimler. Jin is a bit more difficult because Jin is very much a cultural thing that I think a lot of people think they understand, but they don't. I don't really understand it myself. I work with the Goetia spirits. I have always, or for a long time. Even before I understood them as being Jinn or what Jinn were, I was working with them back then. So I've continued to work with them. My interpretation, my understanding has just altered and changed over the years. But even I don't really understand what Jinn are. It is very cultural. The Goetia spirits are I would say, are a very select group of spirits. Um, Probably working outside the confines of or the interpretation and the understanding of what all these different classes of jinn really are. The Ifrit and the ghouls and everything else. That you know, those are particular groups and classes of jinn, and there's about 5 or 6 different classes, types of jinn. Some of them hate humans, some of them will tolerate humans, some of them enjoy working with humans. So you got to pick your battles very carefully there. But yeah, so I can't really recommend books there because I don't, I'm not part of that culture. So I work with the Goetia spirits, have I've accepted by them. I will continue to work with them, but I can't really tell you about Jinn because it's not my culture, and it's a very specific thing. Okay. Lowton, that is an interesting perspective. They may have also chosen the names themselves for the same reasons as human. But that's kind of the interpretation, or the understanding that I've come to believe. Um, Andrew, I'll be right back. Just going to get a cup of coffee. I'm still drinking my hot chocolate, which is cold now. Mm. Harry Lee, I mean, using the magic of positive thinking with letting go in the mundane work of losing weight, and now have to lose 25 pounds to get my right hip replaced. I started at 450. That was message one of two. Hold on. I can't find, you read the message. It's not here. But yeah, you said you're doing that work and it's making some progress. So I hope it goes well and you can get your hip replacement. Yolanda, I find it interesting that when we call her my goddess, she appeared to you looking like Hecate. Um, just proof that we view them differently. Actually, yeah, that's Lilith. And I've actually seen a lot more people lately for some reason are saying the same thing that um, Lilith tends to appear same as Hecate does. And it's just it seems to be becoming a more prominent thing. Or I don't know. But it's I know they were different. I know they weren't the same, but they looked the same, which I found interesting. That was kind of weird. But yeah, when obviously you see her differently than I do. Yeah, so it does become a very personal thing. Lighten on a kind of related note, what's your stance on the concept of avatars? The deity expressing itself through a human incarnation. Very valid. I mean, you see it in Hindu all the time. Um, I mean, Sri Ma, who is a current incarnation, is an avatar, considered to be the goddess. No, well, yeah. See, I can't remember the bloody name. Parvati. Yeah. No. Yes. Parvati was the musical one. Let me just double check here. This. Oh, yeah, yeah. Um. Right. It wasn't Parvati. It was bloody hell. Saraswati. There we go. Okay, got it eventually. Yeah, I mean, and Shrima is a living being now, but she is considered to be the avatar or the current incarnation of Saraswati. So it's not something that we see in history, and it hasn't. We don't see it nowadays. We do, absolutely, we do. So yeah. Um, Oops, correction on an earlier statement. The cherubim's heads correspond to Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius, not Libra. Okay, there you go. But yeah, still air. Um, great. So we've just established that I have a spiritual parasite in my house that's causing havoc and feeding on us. Is there some kind of magical napalm? I don't want to waste time on ineffective remedies. Yeah, banishing rights. Um, just give it a good boom, blast, and then set up wards. So, which if you're doing the LBRP, you're kind of doing because you're calling the archangels at the same time, and then just don't take it down, just leave them up. So you're doing a banishing, and then you're calling the archangels to stand at the 4 quarters. So yeah, try that. Sonic, how did you get over the obsession of crossing the abyss? I'm stuck on that and City of the Pyramids and Thelema, the concept of fitting in the cup of Babylon. So I didn't go down the themic route in that particular regard, and I can't really tell you what I did specifically because it wasn't any kind of, I didn't get to a moment where I said, okay, now I've got to do this thing where I cross the abyss and reach the city of pyramids and, go through the gate of Choronzon and all that stuff. It wasn't a particular working or anything like that. It's just part of the growth that you go through, really. And I think that was my when I went through my Dark Night of the Soul, that was my crossing the abyss. And I was in there for a long time. I battled, I really did. Because as I said, I didn't have a community and people to talk to help me through it. So I just rejected everything, absolutely everything, and had to get through it myself. And eventually I did. But it was a battle. But that was my crossing the abyss. You'll find that crossing the abyss is that big, very big Dark Night of the Soul event that happens. Um, and it can last years. I mean, it's not like I see people say, "Oh, I crossed the abyss," and a month later I'm back again. I'm sorry, that's no, no, no. If you go through a big crossing the abyss, Dark Night of the Soul, whatever we want to call it, it's a huge fucking event that takes place, and people who do have the community to help them through it, it can still take years to get through, months maybe, but not like oh, I did it last night. No, it's just illusions again. Sonic, I heard in a video you mention Buddhism. What is your take on the practice on liberation and nirvana? I can't really give you much of an interpretation. I did kind of explore Buddhism for about 6 months. I immersed myself in it, but it's something I could not connect with. I just found it too similar to Christian worldview. If I'd gone into Bon Buddhism, the original Tibetan roots, maybe I would have found something very different, but I couldn't connect with it. So in many senses, I didn't really understand a lot of the concepts within Buddhism because I didn't explore them long enough. So I can't really give it much there. I am going to have to end, so let me just try and get through the rest of this quickly. The widespread nonsense and expectations is one of the reasons I specifically undertake meditation without any preconceived ideas. You have to, don't have any preconceived ideas. Expectations are what actually ruins the whole experience. Sonic Wild isn't existence, the abyss. That could be debated until the cows come home. One of those things that, yeah, sure, but no. Um, yeah, no, that's a big, long discussion, that is. Listen, when I did it more, at least, I would say for the things to be presented to me as they are, or as close as they could be, rather than from preconceived notions. Yep. Um, Folklore Creatures, Jacques Vallée. I mean, you still need to read that. Passport to Magonia. Was it Magonia? Yeah. I actually still need to read that. But apparently, I've heard that's a really good book to read in that regard for folklore creatures. It also gets into the connection of them with alien interpretations, I think. Um, Sonic, is it insanity to not use a circle when working with liberation? No, not at all. I don't use a circle myself. You have wards. If you've been doing all of your foundational stuff, you've got wards and you've got protections in place. The circle, for me personally, is just a balancing space if I feel I need to balance the elements within my surroundings. I might feel I need to do a banishing to reset the space in order so I can work. Depends how I feel at the time, but a protective circle that keeps things out and keeps things in, it's not really how I work. I've got protections in place. I've got my wards in place. Don't need to do any of that. So my circles are usually kind of like placing me between worlds. Um, Lotan, some reflection on my synchronicities with Chemosh has had me wonder about the avatar thing. Might have to get into that another time though. Yeah, it's kind of a big discussion. And it can be interpreted in a variety of different ways as well. Maybe next week, bring it up next week, and we'll have a chat about that. Although I'm not doing Obsidian Veil ritual next week, so we can go on for a bit longer. Andrea stared into the abyss, and it stared back at me, or stared into me. The abyss ran off crying, asking for its money. Sonically, why is it we welcome demons and we have no problem, but some people feel threatened or bothered by them because of their how they've been raised, how they've been taught, and how they interpret these things. They have been taught that they are evil spirits that want to harm you. It's a Christian worldview, and we live in a society which is predominantly it's the overculture is Christian, and therefore that's how we get raised. That's how we get taught in school. You know, demons are evil and they're going to harm you. So but when we're talking about demons, we're not even talking about the Christian interpretation of a demon, which is an evil spirit. We're talking about the daemon and the daimon, which is the Greek and the Latin interpretation of what they are. And that's very, very different. So it's a different interpretation, different teaching, different understanding. Ivan, hello, Ivan. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I've got to go now. Just trying to get through the rest of the messages. Maybe more calm, something maybe because of karma. Oh, that's a whole different discussion as well. Maybe it's the effects of a karmic debt or the curses of nasty neighbors and relatives. Possible. Um, Same reason they do it with other humans. Sonic, what do you see? Dark Night of the Soul as depression with bad luck and no drive, or just no drive? Dark Night is kind of a big topic. If we can discuss it next week, it would be better to give you a very brief interpretation. Dark Night of the Soul is when you get to the point in your magical career where you decide that it's all a load of bullshit and none of it works, and what you've been doing for the past decade or 2 or 3 decades is just absolute nonsense, and you are a fool and an idiot for actually considering that you are actually doing something. And yes, you do go into a depression because of that, because it completely fucks up your life. It completely fucks up your brain. It completely fucks you up, absolutely, utterly, completely fucks you up. Because now all of a sudden you are faced with this thing that you've been practicing for so long, for years, and all of a sudden you're faced with this idea that it's a load of shit and it's a load of crap and you are an idiot. And that completely screws you up and it breaks you. Totally, totally breaks you. So, yes, you do go through depression, but it's not being depressed. It's not having anxiety or depression or having some kind of mental issue, mental health issue. Um, it is different. Okay, so it's a very sticky situation. Um, Javi Valley does not identify folkloric beings with aliens. He does the opposite. What ufologists call aliens, according to Valley, are earthly creatures. No, yes, yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Yeah. Balaam because of society, religious trauma, and the fear of the unknown. Sounds like it started at that point. Yeah, kind of. All right, I'm gonna end it there because I need to go and set up for the ritual. I've got 20 minutes before it starts. If anybody is connected with the Obsidian Veil protection and cleansing ritual on Patreon, I'll see you in 20 minutes. If you're not and you want to be connected, it's the $10 tier on my Patreon. I do a ritual once a month at the Dark Moon. All right. Let me just check. Sonic said, "Can you go into how the evil eye works in a video on how it actually works?" I do think I did a video on the evil eye. Just check. Um, Yeah, I'm sure I did one. Just have a check. Do a search through my channel. Right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I will see you all next week. And this was a good chat tonight, actually. I enjoyed it. It's pretty rough to end early.